What's up, guys? Thanks for watching Kodiak MD. I'm Amir, and this is my Kodiak 100. I'm going to be flying it and doing some cool stuff with it. I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about getting insurance. Most pilots who get their private pilot's license eventually want to end up owning their own airplane. I mean, that's kind of the reason of getting your pilot's license. Now, I understand if you want to go out and be like, an airline pilot or commercial pilot or something like that, this might not pertain to you. But if you're looking to buy an airplane after your private pilot's license, you're going to need to deal with getting insurance. And I had a huge problem with insurance. So I'm a newer pilot, low hours. I finished everything up in a Cessna 172, and I had a Kodiak on order. Well, during that time, I had a lot of pilots around me, and I would ask everyone, like, hey man, what's insurance going to be? Like, what's this going to cost? I really need to know so I can budget for it. How much is it going to be? And, everybody's like an expert at insurance, but nobody actually really knows. And so, when I took delivery of the Kodiak, or I was taking delivery of the Kodiak, that's when, things got real. And the way insurance works, I didn't know this, and that's kind of why I'm doing this video, to talk about it so you guys understand. There's brokers for insurance. None of these brokers actually really know at all what this is going to cost or what it's going to be. All the brokers are doing is they're taking your information and submitting it to separate companies. And those companies have underwriters that look at the application, they look at how many hours you have, what you've been doing, and they basically evaluate the risk and give you a quote on that. So you'll have like 10 different brokers all offering you like the world. Oh, I have ins with this, and I have this, and I have that, and I'll get you the best rate and all this stuff. My experience was the majority of that was nonsense. Everybody was about the same. And here's what happened. So I submitted my stuff through one broker, and the guy came back to me with just a ridiculous quote. And I'll get to how much it all was. But at that point, I was like, okay, well, this guy's just out of his mind. I don't know where he took my information to. Let me try another broker, because I called a couple other brokers, and another guy's like, oh man, I'll be able to get you a better rate, and I have ins with this company and that company, and all this stuff. So then you submit your stuff to them. Well, what happens is they go back to the same insurance companies, and those insurance companies, once a broker has submitted your information to them, they don't want to requote. They say, well, look, like, this was already sent to us, we're not requoting. Okay, so at that point, that broker can't really help you at all anyways, because somebody else has quoted it. Now, that broker will come back to you and say, if you sign this letter that you're going to, only stick with me, and you're not going to shop for insurance, and I'm your broker of record, then, the company will requote this. Well, they will, but what happens is now you're really stuck with that broker. And so if for whatever reason that broker isn't that good, or there's an issue, you're kind of tied in with them because, you've signed a contract with them. So I didn't do that. And so what happened was when I was shopping for insurance, my Kodiak was coming. It was about a month out, and I went to, I was referred to a broker that handles a lot of insurance. And so when I submitted the application to him, he was like, oh, I'll have a quote for you within like a couple days. And, I kept following up like, hey man, what's going on? What's the quote? Did you hear back? And no. And I think this is just something the insurance companies do. I'm not really sure why, but nobody would really quote it until it really came down to like, hey, I'm taking delivery of the aircraft like in a week. I really need insurance. Can we figure this out? And the other problem becomes if you have a loan on the airplane, or you're trying to purchase the airplane with a loan, obviously the finance company requires you to have insurance. If you're buying the plane in cash, you don't need to have insurance. It's not like a car where you need to, submit insurance. You can fly uninsured, but if something happens, obviously you're going to be responsible for it. So about a week before I was taking delivery of the airplane, the broker came back to me with an insurance premium of about $115,000 a year. Okay. And this was for dual piloting. So it wasn't for me soloing the airplane. This was for a dual piloting. And so the pilots that I was having named on the plane each have, like 10,000 hour flight time and like thousands of hours of turbine time. And it was like shell shock. I was like, okay, I can't pay 10 grand a month for insurance. That doesn't even make sense. Now, what was even worse was there's only one insurance company that would write the policy. Every other insurance company declined. And so you're in a bind because you're like, I need insurance. I don't want to fly the plane uninsured. If you're getting a loan, bank needs insurance. So now you're kind of trapped in this situation. Had I have known all of this, I possibly would not have gotten the Kodiak as quickly as I did. I possibly would have waited, because that's a big thing. I mean, that's a big expense, and it's what people don't understand. Even if you're going to get a Cessna, a 172, a 182, the insurance is going to be significantly higher than what you think. Now, I'm talking about a turbine airplane and all this stuff, but regardless, the insurance for a new pilot is going to be significantly more than what you think it is, and you're not going to know that number until you're pretty much locked into buying an airplane. Okay? So I get the quote. Dual only with 2 named pilots. All of us have to go to Kodiak school, which we had gone to. And the other kicker was the deductible was like $100,000, and the coverage was like not the full coverage of the airplane. And it was basically not an insurance policy, but it was some kind of an insurance policy. Okay. So then they also came back and they said, look, if you get more hours and you get an instrument rating, this price premium is going to drop down to about half. So they were quoting about $60,000 a year, which is about $5,000 a month, for insurance. Still significantly high, but again, that might be a little bit more reasonable, understanding that, look, like new pilot, expensive turbine airplane, insuring it is expensive. So I took delivery of the plane. Of course, I had to be locked into insurance. Luckily, I had a friend of mine help me with the insurance. He was able to pull some strings and make it work for me at a little bit of a lower rate. And again, there was a lot of stipulations. So that's how things started. Well, they gave me 90 days to get my instrument rating. And for those that know, it's pretty tough to get an instrument rating. It's not quick. And it's easy to just look online and then just say, oh, well, you need 40 hours and, you need, these approaches and holds. But it's a lot more than that. You actually really need to learn how to do this. And so learning how to do it is tough, and it's a lot. It's like learning fly all over again. Well, when I got the airplane, when I got the Kodiak, for me, I spent the first 2 months just getting comfortable in the plane. I mean, I was having a hard time landing. I was having a hard time holding airspeed. On my approach, and it was discouraging because I moved from a 172 to a turbine and flying a big, heavy, powerful airplane, there was a lot going on. And for me, it was just a huge change of scenery. And so, and it was discouraging because I was like, gosh, I can't land this plane. What's going on? And it's like my brand new first airplane. I don't want to crash, right? Nobody wants to crash. So it was very, very, very stressful, and it was very discouraging. Probably the first month of owning the Kodiak, I wanted to sell it. I was like, I'm not even sure I can do this. I think I might have made the wrong choice. But every time I went up in the plane, and every time I flew a little bit and came in for landings, I got more comfortable. And every time I started, I got more comfortable. And as time went on, I felt better and better and better in the airplane. Now, that took about 2 months, 2.5 months, maybe even 3 months. It was a process. And by about 3 months, I had enough takeoffs and landings where I was landing the plane safely without anyone else touching the controls. But I always had someone in the right seat with me. I was not flying solo. I wasn't insured to fly solo, and I wasn't ready to fly solo. I didn't even want to fly solo. So at that point is when I started working on the instrument, because again, I was really excited about having a new plane, and so I was focusing my time on learning to just fly the Kodiak. So trying to learn to fly instruments just was out the window. I just needed to learn to fly the Kodiak. And so I was in a bind because the insurance had given me 90 days. Well, we went back to the insurance and said, hey, look, still having a hard time. I need some more time for the instrument. And luckily they were okay with that. They extended it and gave me another 90 days. Well, the time and the pressure was on. Like, I had like that hourglass turned and the sand was coming down. I knew that I needed to get the instrument rating because, if I didn't, I was going to lose insurance and not be able to really fly the Kodiak. So I started flying a lot. I went to a 172, and I was doing some of the instrument stuff in the Kodiak as well, flying with a couple instructors, getting the cross countries, getting the hours, and doing the ground school and the groundwork. I went and took the FAA exam. I did really good on it. I don't remember what I got, but I actually did fairly well on it, which was nice because it made the check ride a little smoother. And then after that, I was kind of in this limbo point where like I understood what to do, but I wasn't really ready for a check ride. And the instructors and my buddies that I was flying with just didn't have the time to dedicate towards putting it towards my instrument rating and being able to prep me for the check ride. So I actually found a course in Long Beach. It was 5 days where I went up with this guy. We did 3 or 4 hours of ground. So I'd meet him about 8:30 in the morning. We'd do ground till about 11:30, 12. We'd go in the 172. We'd go fly for 3 or 4 hours. And basically, it was like an IFR prep course. And that was, I think, the best thing that I did. In those 5 days, I learned so much. And I got so well prepped for the check ride. And basically on the 6th day was the check ride. So the guy set everything up. And I'll link his course to this. But I think that was the best choice that I made. So if you're looking for your instrument rating, I really think it's a good idea towards the end to do a course that's specifically targeted to instrument flights and instrument training and prepping for a check ride. So I did that. I felt very, very comfortable. On the 6th day, woke up early in the morning, flew up to Camarillo, and did my check ride, and of course passed that. And that was what I had to do to actually really be able to get insurance. So got the instrument rating, came home, everything's good. That day I started trying to figure out how to get insurance. And so what I did was I actually called Kodiak, and I asked Kodiak, I said, hey, look, I've talked to all these brokers. They've told me different prices, and everybody seems to think they know what they're talking about, but they don't. Some were telling me, look, it's gonna still be dual only. You're not gonna be solo for this until you get like 500 hours. Some were like, oh no problem. Like we'll be able to get you solo. It's just gonna be super expensive. So I asked Kodiak, I was like, hey, you guys sold me the airplane. Do you guys have someone you recommend for insurance? And luckily enough, they have a broker that specifically deals with Kodiak. And my understanding was that he has some kind of program with an insurance company and the underwriters. They understand the aircraft. They understand the mission of the aircraft. They understand how safe the airplane is. And so they're more comfortable writing insurance policies for the airplane. So I reached out to him, and he was like, how many hours? At that point, I had about 350 hours flight time. I had about 150 hours in a Kodiak turbine time. I had my instrument rating, and I had gone to the Parkwater course, which is the factory approved course for the Kodiak, and I had done their IFR course. So he was like, okay, fill out this application, send me all your info, and give me a couple days, and I'll come back to you. So filled everything out, sent it to him. I think this was like on a Thursday. Monday morning, he came back to me with a very reasonable insurance quote that I thought, for where we were at. And, he was like, look, this is for solo. You can fly on your own. Nobody else can fly the airplane, though. They want to minimize risk as to who's flying the aircraft, but it was for me to be able to fly solo. The policy is actually a real policy. The deductible was, I don't know what it is, but it was like minimal, like a couple $1,000s. The limits were high. It covered the full cost of the aircraft. And these were important things with the insurance. And so, they wanted proof of my instrument rating and all that kind of stuff. I sent everything to them, and literally within a day and a half, 2 days later, I had insurance bound under my own name with solo for myself. And so that was a big deal for me. It was a big step. The cost came down significantly. I'm paying a bit under $60,000 a year now. But for you guys to understand, everybody wants to get a plane, but they don't understand the cost. And I definitely didn't understand the cost. People were telling me insurance was going to be like $20,000 a year. And that's far from the truth. I think maybe like in a Cessna, it might be $20,000 or maybe even more. But, to fly a new plane turbine, it's fairly expensive. Now, what I was also told is, look, this is going to be as expensive as it is. The more time you get, the more hours you get, the more ratings you get, this is going to come down. So I was told, get your commercial, and this is going to come down significantly from where you're at. So at this point, I'm working on my commercial, and hopefully the next time I reapply for insurance, it'll be able to come down. The other thing for you guys to understand with the insurance, it's not one of these things where you can pay monthly. They give you the price, and it's basically a check to the insurance company for the year. And you bind the insurance for the year, and it's like not refundable. You can't be like, oh, I had it for like 6 months and now I want to cancel. It's like a full premium paid type of insurance policy. So once you sign and send the money, that's it. You're locked in for the 12 months. Luckily for me, I was able to get something reasonable. It was really the only option that I had. It came out to be better than I thought. And so I'm hoping that, by the next time I apply, I'm going to have closer to like 500 or 600 hours, and I'll probably have like 300 hours or so of turbine Kodiak time and a commercial license, and that pricing should be down. So, I want to do this video for newer guys who are getting their private pilot's license and thinking of purchasing a plane, for them to understand what they're getting themselves into. There wasn't a lot of information out there for me, and everybody I talked to was, gave me different stuff. Nobody thought that an insurance policy was going to be $100 and something $1,000 for the year. That was just crazy. And that was, again, for a dual insurance policy with like super experienced pilots. But the insurance company does not want a lower rated, like lower hour pilot to manipulate the controls or sit left seat. They just don't want to accept that risk. So, you have to understand that you are going to have a tough time getting insurance. And again, the problem is you're not going to know what that cost really is until you actually have an airplane that you're taking delivery of. That's really when they're going to quote you, and you have to be ready for it. And that's kind of that. So I hope this video will help you guys understand about getting insurance. If I had to do things all over again, what I would have done was I would have gotten my instrument rating before taking delivery of the Kodiak. I think at that point I would have been able to get myself a much more reasonable insurance, and I would have hoped to have more hours. I think if I would have went to the insurance company initially with an instrument rating and 300, 400, 500 hours, the price would have been a lot more reasonable, but I didn't. I was in a hurry, and I was very excited and wanted to get my plane, and so I got kind of hit with a stick upside the head, not really understanding what was going to happen. So looking back, if I had to make different choices, I think that's what I would have done. I would have had the instrument rating and more hours prior to taking delivery of my Kodiak. So I hope this video helps you guys. Would love to get some feedback from you guys. Subscribe to us, and we'll do another video soon.